I received a question from Dave in Florida. He says, I'm an electric utility employee based in Florida. Do you know why some companies leave vines, for example, ivies, growing up poles into distribution even after line clearance activities are performed? Seems like this smaller vegetation can also cause problems with electric service. Uh, that's a great question, Dave. I can understand how someone would be curious about that occurring. Um, Dave, it goes back to probably about the late 1980s when work was done looking at how trees cause faults. And so they pushed trees into a power line and tried to measure the current flow down to ground level. And they couldn't detect it, which indicated that it wasn't a public safety risk, and secondly, it wasn't causing a fault on the system. With further work, what they found was typically how faults occur is when you have branches that cross phases on a multi-phase system, and they bridge those phases, and that is what ends up causing a fault. So what you have with a vine is something like ivy, Virginia creep, or something like that. They're growing fairly slowly. So on a system, for example, where you have a primary and a neutral, it may grow up, kind of start wrapping itself around the neutral, and then slowly start advancing up towards the energized conductor. As it gets to that conductor, making contact, or just before it, you get some arcing across, and what that's going to do is cause heating and desiccate that new growth, which then again creates the airspace. That contact is going to be so temporary, it's unlikely to cause a fault on the system. And it can occur over and over again, and it just keeps kind of drying out the new growth and preventing it from really getting a hold on the energized conductor and creating a substantive bridge between the primary and the neutral. So if you're looking at a utility and they have limited resources to do their line clearance activities, then it's why spend money on removing vines when this is not really going to do anything to improve reliability and safety of the system. I have seen utilities where what they've done is cut off the vines at ground level and just leave them on the pole to desiccate. And I would expect the reason for that is if you've ever tried to remove something like an ivy, Virginia creeper, wild grape from something that's wrapped around, when it's green, it's a pretty difficult job to try to get it off of there. Now, if you leave it for a while and it dries out, I mean, then you start pulling on it, it starts to break. And so I think that's the reason that they do that. The one exception to what I'm saying is if you happen to have kudzu. Kudzu grows so fast that once it gets to the neutral, it wouldn't be very long. We're talking a matter of a few weeks where it would be up and swarming that energized conductor. And so in that case, you could potentially get a substantive bridge between the primary and the neutral. So thanks for your question, Dave. Hope I've addressed it adequately for you.